"Spread your legs," he said, a solitary rancher and his towering. "Apache lover on Christmas." Eve snow drifted across the wide, Wyoming plains like whispered memories, covering fences, hoofprints, and the lonely ranch house that stood against the winter wind. Daniel Harper moved slowly through the barn, lantern swinging in his hand, its warm glow barely pushing back the cold darkness. Years of solitude had shaped his life into quiet routines, feeding cattle before dawn, repairing broken rails, eating supper alone beside a fading fire. Christmas Eve had once meant laughter, music, and shared meals, but now it passed like any other winter night, unnoticed except by the calendar nailed to his wall. The world beyond his land felt distant, almost unreal, and he had learned not to expect visitors. The storm arrived without warning, rolling down from the mountains in heavy grey waves. Wind roared across the fields, rattling shutters and sending snow spinning through the air like ash. Daniel stepped outside to secure the barn doors when movement caught his eye near the tree line. At first he thought it was an animal struggling through the storm, but the shape rose taller. Human, swaying with exhaustion. Instinct pushed him forward despite the freezing wind. As he drew closer, he saw a woman wrapped in worn leather and fur, her dark hair dusted white with snow, her posture strong yet unsteady. Her eyes met his, fierce, guarded, and tired all at once. She tried to speak, her voice nearly stolen by the wind, introducing herself as Ayanna, traveling alone after being separated from her people during the harsh winter migration. Before she could say more, her strength gave way. Daniel caught her just as she collapsed, surprised by how light she felt despite her towering presence. Carrying her toward the cabin, he felt something unfamiliar stirring inside him. Not duty, not pity, but a quiet sense of purpose he had not known in years. Inside, firelight slowly warmed the frozen air as snow battered the windows. He wrapped her in blankets and set water to boil, listening to the storm rage outside, while the small cabin filled with another person's breathing. The silence no longer felt empty. For the first time in a long while, Daniel realized the night did not seem endless, and the loneliness he carried felt slightly less heavy, as if the storm had delivered more than just winter to his door. The storm showed no mercy through the night, burying the ranch beneath layers of snow, so deep the fences nearly disappeared. Morning arrived quietly, the sky pale and heavy, light filtering through frost-covered windows. Daniel woke in his chair beside the fire, the embers glowing faintly. For a moment he forgot he wasn't alone anymore, until he heard movement behind him. Ayanna stood near the window, wrapped in one of his wool blankets, watching the white landscape stretch endlessly beyond the hills. She looked stronger than the night before, though traces of exhaustion lingered in her eyes. When she thanked him, her voice carried calm strength, the kind born from survival rather than comfort. Daniel nodded awkwardly, unsure how to respond. Conversation had never come easily to him, especially after years without company. Yet her presence didn't feel intrusive. Instead, the cabin felt balanced, as though silence finally had someone to share it with. Outside, the storm still raged, making travel impossible. Ayanna insisted on helping despite being a guest. She moved confidently around the ranch, learning quickly where tools were kept and how gates needed securing against the wind. Daniel watched her from a distance at first, surprised by her resilience. She worked without complaint, her movements steady and purposeful, as if hardship was something she had long ago accepted rather than feared. By afternoon, they returned indoors, faces flushed from cold air. The cabin filled with the scent of simple food cooking over the fire. Snow tapped softly against the windows now, the storm beginning to lose its anger. They sat across from each other at the small wooden table, sharing a quiet meal. Slowly, words replaced silence. Daniel spoke of the ranch and the years that blurred together after loss had emptied his home. Ayanna listened without interruption, her gaze thoughtful. When she shared her own story, she spoke of journeys of protecting family and of learning to keep moving even when the world felt uncertain. There was pain in her memories, but also pride, a deep connection to land and spirit that Daniel found himself admiring. As evening settled, candlelight flickered against the walls, casting long shadows that danced like memories. They sat near the fire, listening to the wind soften outside. The loneliness that once filled every corner of the cabin seemed to retreat, replaced by a quiet understanding neither of them tried to explain. When their hands brushed while reaching for the same cup, both paused. The moment was small, almost accidental, yet it carried warmth stronger than the fire itself. For Daniel, the night felt different from any he had known in years, not because the storm had ended, but because he no longer faced it alone.